Değerli katılımcılar,
Esteemed participants, I salute you all. Welcome to our session. In this session, we are planning to start and finish at 4:30. We will talk about the development of WPPEs in manufacturing and local content. Oh, you know, we have a specific regulation in terms of local product support, to implement a local product support. In this regulation has been implemented for 2 years. We implemented it last year. The first one was last year. The second implementation has been implementing this year. And the applications were generally done by WPPs. There was one from hydroelectrical power plant. There were 30 applications, and around 15 of them were approved. Mostly it was the WPPs. And there were also hydroelectrical power plant and geothermal power plants too, but they were not able to make. At the moment, the approximate capacity is 2,000 megawatts. And the incentive they are going to take is about $30,000. This implementation is getting as fast as possible, and it is in order to support the local production. And actually, we were not expecting to see other applications from, for example, like biomass or other renewable energy, but the wind energy and the wind power plants, the applications coming from that perspective make us really happy. Many turbine manufacturers are producing the towers and the wings of them in Turkey. Well, they try to give efforts. There are some initiatives to make the productions of the generator in Turkey too. And before WPP in Turkey, as I said, we have local turbine manufacturer, and the first manufactured wind turbine in Turkey. It was the first unlicensed turbine. It was accepted, if I'm not mistaken, accepted last month, and now it's under operation. This is a thrilling implementation in terms of public sector, and of course we shouldn't forget our manufacturers who make procurement to these productions, like the tower production, tower manufacturing, or wing manufacturing. The number of these companies are increasing day by day, and we are planning to have wind turbines, to manufacture actually wind turbines, which will be able to meet the needs in Turkey, and that will contribute our country in general. I first will give the floor to our first speaker. He will talk about the current situation, MIL-RES project. Esteemed participants, welcome. Well, today you are going to see the creation of a domestic product. Well, domestic product, the importance of it is great. If what is called
Eksiklikler olması dolayısıyla birçok sektörde
the domestic product. What is domestic product? First, let's see what it is.
bu yanlış, bu yanlış tarif düzeltildi. Birkaç ay evvel kanunu çıktı. %50 bir yerli olmasını
There's a slight technical problem. Sorry for the situation at the moment. If we, in order to
lazım parasal olarak. Yani maliyetinin %51 yerli olmak şartı var. Değilse ithal mal.
well, we all know what domestic product means. Apart from domestic product, we also have uh, imported products too. What is okay? We are talking about domestic products, but what is the Turkish product made in Turkey? When we say made in Turkey, well, but there is also another thing called Turkish made. To be able to stamp it Turkish made, the design should be yours. You should be the one who produce it, and after the necessary studies, the related legislation and regulations have been done, and I believe the people, companies, or related partners who are doing that should be awarded. All countries have their power through production, through manufacturing.
İstiyorsanız yerli mal üretimlerle kapatamazsanız illa
Well, to be able to close that gap, you need to be able to create a brand, your own brand. A great example of that is Germany. Mercedes, BMW, Bosch, or Siemens, or similar brands. You can see Germany was able to make that step. Okay, let's go back to our project, Milras project. We gave great effort to that. This is kind of a turn point for us and changed so many things at national and international level, and these changes will continue. Well, this is a national project. The reason for that is we had a design team. We call it national team, this design team, just like the national football team. You know, in normal, just like in normal football teams, normal league teams, you can have foreign players, but when it comes to national team, you have to have your own countrymen inside it. It's similar in our national design team. We have national designers inside, and I would like to thank everyone involved in the process. And we have 4 players in consortium, wing designers. They created that. People in this part are quite good in the design. We have alternator group too. Well, after all these 4 steps are done, this project was initiated, and after we reach our target, then we will hopefully play a role at international level. On the table you can see the wind energy turbines changes according to years. And when we look at the figures, the changes are quite fast and good. And the megawatt is approximately 3,000, which is quite a good figure. And as stated before, national domestic production is of great importance. I want to talk about new developments in wind energy. There is a total teamwork, I can say. New designs and lighter use of lighter material will be implemented, and the megawatt power was increased. Enercon now is at the test stage for 7 megawatt in its new turbine. Offshore wind turbines, the researchers continue about the offshore wind turbines for 10 megawatt. In terms of current deficit, when we look at the situation in Turkey, we want Turkey to be a strong manufacturing company to make a gain from that. But the 56 billion dollar current deficit in general is due to energy import. We want to reduce this. And of course, if we can actualize the local production implementation in the wind turbines, which are in the wind turbine parts which are imported, that would be a great step as well. The 86.2% of the current deficit, as I said, was due energy. Well, offset, well, the fact that putting a 51% of domestic production contribution is a good step. In terms of energy investments, until 2023, the planned investment is around 90,000. Well, sorry for passing through my slides fast. You can see the figures on the screen about the offset obligations, in which countries there is offset obligations. Energy investments, transmission investments, and so on, all the investments, when we calculate them, is around $60 billion. And these figures are quite high. And if we can implement this domestic production utilization, we can save up at a great demand, at a great stage. Going back to our own mill race, which is national WPP's project, the design and production of the wind turbines, all of them were done at domestic level. What are the specifications of the turbines? The power is 500 kilowatt. The wing length is 21.5 meters. The tower height is 63.5 meters. Rotor diameter is 45 meters. The circle of the wing is 30 dd. The total
Ön konsept belirleme safhasında kullanılan konsepttir bu.
You can see the pictures of the designs which were used in the consortium. This is the establishment process of the turbine. This one is three-part tower, 60 meters long, produced in Turkey. Well, actually, even though you don't have any obligation for the domestic product usage, still meeting the demands locally or domestically is a positive aspect for you, because of when you think about the shipment of it and so on, it's a bit the process becomes a bit easier when it's nationally, domestically produced. You can see the tower. Some wind turbine producers want to have the towers without any molding on them, welding on them, I'm sorry, without any weldings on them. And in Turkey at the moment, there is a specific place where you can do this rounding um, tower without having any welding on it. This is the nasal cabin. After the concept design, this is the
Burada görüyorsunuz.
this is the bird view, this is the profile view of it. As this is the very first wind turbine, we might have observed some problems from time to time. And in this project, we put a
İlk yapılan
crane to observe whether there is a problem or not. This crane, with this crane, we can mount parts up to 5 tons. Now, looking at the real parts, because these were sketches, test sketches. This one is among the most important part. It is
bunlar bitmiştir. Yataklar
casted, done. All of the parts are ready and established, installed. Apart from that, there are some other small parts in the picture. Now let's look at the important parts. This is the center part.
dökümü Bursa'da İrekköprü'de yapılmıştır.
It was produced in Bursa. This is
Dökülmüş ve işlenmiştir. Arkada da görüyorsunuz göbek. Bunların ebatlarına fikir vermek bakımından buradaki çalışan personelle de mukayese edebilirsiniz.
this is cassis done in the same iron casting workshop. This is the nozzle bed. This is 2.37 meters high. This one is shelf. In this picture, you know, in the wind turbine, their winds are a bit more movable. And to be able to control the angle of the wind turbine wings, these beds, wing beds, were produced, domestically produced. In this picture, you can see the wings, which which are about 20 meters long. They were produced in Izmir. The composite processes were done by
Bunun için bir test
TWEC, and the testing process is finished at the moment. The cases, you see the nasal parts which are heavy.
yanlış yere bastım. Otomatik atmıyorlar. Dişli kutusunu görüyorsunuz. Dişli kutusu da yerli yapılmıştır.
This one is also local production. The gear case. This is the gear case. You can see it in the picture. This is 100% domestic too. This is the alternator. This was produced by Kavak for the first time. Actually, this is a serial production company, but for this kind of individual single parts, we work together with it. The design of it was done by TWEC. The designs were tested, and the testing process is finished, by the way. This is the wing bed. These are also locally produced. I'm sorry, wing seat. These are the reductors. They are enabling the wings to turn around. You see the nasal testing system in this picture. It was established in Istanbul. We are going to make the tests here. After the testing process is positive, we will implement them. This is again from the testing area. These are the brakes. We imported them, not due to the fact that we can't produce them, but as the number is low of the brakes, it was not so economical to produce it all over. It was better to import it. This is the field, the area where we are going to build our wind turbines. This is in Istanbul, Terkos. It is İSKİ field. In a couple of months, we are going to build the turbines here. Well, the wind turbine, in terms of wind turbine, what is the most important thing we did in this project is the sub-sector, to support the sub-sector. Because if you don't have any incentives or if you don't have any potential to produce and so on, you can't give any support to the sub-industry, to the side industry. Well, when you want to have domestic production, the first step you have to do is to have these kind of companies which are able to produce and meet your needs. You have to have them readily. So again, this side industry, supporting the side industry is important because well, being aware of that fact, we were able to prepare the infrastructure for this sub-industry in every aspect. If you can't create the necessary infrastructure for the sub-industry, all your efforts would be in vain. because you wouldn't have any good results. And Turkey, being aware of that, did what it had to do. That was all of my presentation. Thank you for listening. We thank Mr. Sedat. Well, we will have the questions at the end of the session. We thank again Mr. Sedat Çelikdoğan for his nice presentation. Comparing to last year, we've had a great development, I believe. And hopefully in the next years, in the following years, we will have better situation. As you said, all these efforts and studies will have great contribution to sub-industry as well. Well, now I want to give the floor to Mr. Kerem Paksoy from TWEC, Koruyucu Malzeme Sanayi Ticari, who is Deputy General Manager at that company. He will deliver his speech.
Herkese merhaba.
Hello everybody, my name is Kerem Paksoy. I also will introduce a company, a 100% Turkish company, to you, and I will give you some information related to this conference. Our company was founded in 1973, and in 76 we made our first production. And about epoxy, our first production was made in 1982 with Sharing Industry Chemicalen license. And starting from 1980s, we started to make our own production with TWEC brand. This year is our 41st year. And this integrated structure of our company has many advantages. When our client comes to us and wants an end product, we can start its design with the
Savunma sanayine yönelik bir takım.
Starting with the raw material. Now we have some products for the production of wind turbines, boats, yachts, and vessels. We are located in Gebze, but we have some directorates in other parts of Turkey. When it comes to the production of the wings, wings have a composite structure. What does that mean? It is the combination of at least two different products, and the end product reflects the features of the used materials, but it is superior to the raw material. For example, concrete, and then carbon elyaf and glass elyaf, and epoxy materials and cement. So when we have the materials of concrete are weaker than the concrete itself, sometimes we use some core materials like PVC or other materials to make things more durable. I will pass it very fast, the technical things. It's epoxy. They have two components, and two components come together to start a reaction. And as a result of this reaction, we have a model, and then you put them to produce them. And epoxy products are used for the shells, outer and inside shells.
Köşede gördüğünüz gibi elyaflar ve arasında nüve malzeme yerleştirilebilir.
This is how we produce the wings, and this is how composite material is used. We put it in a pattern, in a mold, And or there is another method, the more modern method, which is called infusion. So you have the molding, you have the case, and
Torbanın içindeki hava boşaltılır. Vakumlanma
you put a plastic cover and you evacuate the air out of it. We have systems for two different um, systems to produce, and they are all certified. This is a picture from our productions. This is our molding and fibers and the materials. And there are some core materials. And you start the epoxy and vacuum the air from the sides and evacuate the air. And the epoxy is given in the middle and it goes towards the sides.
Şurada bir tekne
There is a picture of a boat production. So you can see how the epoxy goes. There are some feeding lines. Epoxy is making the fibers wet a little bit. You see it becomes more wet and it is about to be finished now. As you see, it's finished. It's all wet. So you can see the feeding channels of epoxy and how it goes, how it extends. And when it reaches to the edges, infusion is finished. I think up to this presentation, generally we talked about the wind power plants, the installation of them in the world, and the problems in Turkey, but we didn't actually talk about the infrastructure, the industry, and the side industry. I'd like to touch upon them a little bit, and then my friend Cembe will also continue. Yesterday, Thomas Becker said something, and he said one turbine is being erected every 30 seconds, and this time period will be shorter in the upcoming years. And I took this information also from yesterday's presentation. Good scenario, moderate scenario, and advanced scenario. In the moderate scenario, there we see the cumulative numbers. In 2020, it says 712, for example. So if in 2029, it will be like 900 or something. This is a cumulative number. So if we are going to make 550 gigawatt power with 2 megawatts turbine, and then it means one turbine every other 3.9 hours in the world. How about Turkey? Our aim is 20 gigawatt and 3.5 gigawatt is installed now, and we have to install 16.5 gigawatt in 12 years, and if we are going to do them with 2 megawatts turbines, and we have to erect 8.250 turbines, and it means one turbine in 8.5 hours. So one turbine in 8.5 hours of power installation should be done. So when we look at it, if 1 megawatt is 1 million euro with 8 years in Turkey, we are aiming to produce 16.5 billion, and this is our share in the market. In the world, 30 times more than turbines will be erected in the world than Turkey. Why is it hard for us to reach our target, which is very small? As a producer, should we think Turkey as a market, or should we take the world also into the consideration? What are the global actors, other countries doing, which are different than what we do? For example, China has a really extraordinary impact, but I think we should evaluate some things. And what we should do to make Turkey a global actor. Um, we talked about these things, energy policies, permits, and financial risks. I won't talk about them, but the main issue is the domestic industry. The previous speaker also mentioned it, so please don't even only think about the domestic industry. We are talking about a big market, global market, and the local industry that we have here has aims and should actually aim the whole market. This is what Murat Mercan says. The energy sector is dependent, foreign dependent, 75%. When we start to use the wind and solar power, it is not enough to have the domestic industry. The main thing is the main materials and raw materials that are going to be used in wind power and solar power plants need to be domestic production. The previous speaker also mentioned the wind was local production, but were the materials also domestic materials or like local materials. So you're establishing a business, but you need some parts, spare parts. You will need them, and if you don't have the local industry, it means you are dependent on the foreign industry and imports. That's why we need to see the big picture. There's a main industry and a side industry in Turkey, and some of the representatives are here with us today. And these industries are producing high added value products. So when we are not producing an agricultural product or something, we have like value added technological products to sell, and this needs to be improved and continued. There are, of course, many good companies, local Turkish companies. There are many companies that whose representatives are not here today, but there are many well-known, worldwide well-known companies in Turkey. And as the industrialists, we want to make our voice heard, and we decided to have an association, the Association of Renewable Energy Industrialists. It covers all the renewable energy sectors in Turkey, and all the industry specialists can become a member. And I think Cem Bey will continue. That was my part. Thank you very much for your attention.
Kerem Bey çok teşekkür ediyoruz.
Thank you very much. Now we'd like to invite Cem Bey to the platform. We thought he was going to be the last speaker, but he has to catch another session, so we are moving him forward.
Değerli katılımcılar,
Esteemed participants, I salute you all. Well, we are a company, a firm, Turkish-made firm as well, and therefore I was quite content to listen to the previous presentations. Well, when we look at the presentations, we can greatly understand in what kind of position and challenge we are actually. But I believe, together with the improvements in these years, we will have a better situation. What is our difference? We were more small-scaled, but we were able to penetrate the market easily. Well, but this compared to other company in question, they were conducting their studies together with universities, but we are trying to reach our target as much as possible. We are giving service in a sector which is below 1.5 megawatts. Why we are here actually? Why we choose this market? Well, the big companies, the rooted companies, are able to produce capacities up to 3.5 megawatts. Actually, technologically, there is not a great lack of, and when we compare the megawatts, actually we started from a scale which was quite similar to the scale of these companies which are able to produce 3.5 capacity. We achieved our targets in a couple of years, and we were able to achieve our current megawatt in just 3 years. And when we compare Turkey's situation with other country, I believe Turkey is on the right track. And also, we can see that the infrastructure in Turkey is quite strong. Looking individually to the industrialists, the Proxy company, which is a chemical company, can support in terms of material, can support us easily. As long as we can create a coordination together with this knowledge accumulation, we can create our own made, locally produced turbines. The company which was connected to the grid for the first time is Sermetal in Bandırma. We made agreement with it in 2011, and only in 2014 we were granted connection permission for this. Even though this seems like a challenging process, actually it was not. It was not a fightful process. We had a great support of the related departments and institutions, and in such a short time, like in a couple of months, in like 2-3 months, we were able to have the connection. Previously, the connection permits required longer times, but at the moment, the problem can be a solution to the problem can be found in 20 days. And with the efforts of Sermetal as well, we achieved this. Because, it's not easy to invest in something and wait for a couple of years without any result. Well, let me summarize how we achieved this. We have in total 60 personnel, and in the recent 2 years, in this period, in the recent 2 years, actually collecting all the feedbacks and the data required like 2 years for us. We implemented this to a company in Aliyah, but we still don't have connection permit. We are waiting. Then after that, we implemented the Sermetal, but Sermetal was able to be granted connection permit earlier than the first company we worked with. looking at 2014, by the time these connection permissions are granted, our company spent like 15 million to the R&D studies. We never focused on main investment. Our projects were always pilot projects. And thanks to that, we are now on the right place, I believe. And thanks to that, we had like a $3 million turnover in a short time. But for this sector, the government should be quite flexible as well, because technology changes fastly, swiftly, and also the methods are changing accordingly. Together with the development agencies projects, at the moment we won 2 or 3 tender bids at the moment. At the end of 2050, we are planning to build our 500 kilowatt power plant. Well, our 2016 target is to have 1.5 megawatts, but of course, it's not just that our capacity only enables us to have this megawatt. Of course, we can reach, we have the technology, we are ready to do our best, and are ready to try to get megawatts above that. Apart from that, we have good connections globally as well. In United States, we have good distributors and so on. In this picture, you see the bigger turbines, which are actually hard to build. And actually, we draw that topic started to draw the media's attention as well. In this picture, you can see the headline saying exemplary investment from Kerse. Below 1 megawatt, why it is important? Because with this current technology, you can't start from a high megawatt. And none of the companies around the world are going to grant you a license or due to competition give you much information about the current situation. Well, we have a great knowledge accumulation, but everything is just on paper. You know, generally the problem is that every knowledge and information remains on the paper, but putting that into action is the challenging part of that process. And this slight nuance actually is the determinant of your success or of your current stage. Well, our initial aim, we would not be able to actualize it by ourselves, because in terms of investment, it required quite great money. So actually, what we need is to have competitors within the country. The turbines below 60 meters, their projects are made quite easy at the moment. Well, actually, let me state this. I don't personally think that anyone can easily erect a wind turbine quite easily close to their own companies or production facilities. It's not just about the environmental impact assessments, but there might be some other problems too. The most common usage of it is between 300 or 400 megawatt. And in terms of height, the turbines to be designed shall be turbines not too high, efficient turbines which can reach your target. That's what we did actually, and we are planning to develop it in a better way. Fast payback. Thinking about this, thinking in terms of finance point of view, the short-term payback should be between 5 and 7 years. The reporting is quite important. I showed you that we have 2 turbines. One of them was commissioned in a couple of months before, and one of them is in Aliyah. But in the one in Aliyah, we are not so content with it. But the other one, the first one, we get efficient results. I can give you the data sheet on the screen because it's not so clear at the moment. I can share the data with you. A turbine
37-38 binleri yakalabilir durumda görünüyoruz. Ama biraz da
well, as I said, we have efficient results and our targets are successfully achieved. How we started this business, we are actually a company with a 30-year of experience, 30-year of history. When we came to Turkey between 2008 and 11, we organized ourselves abroad as well. We have our offices. We are going to install a new turbine, and we have our investments too. And actually, our success lays down in our efforts done so far. We've worked quite hard on our projects. In terms of our leading role in the industry, we have a leading role, in my opinion, and when we look at the figures. And after our application, we were able to build our turbine in Ayvalık in such a short time. Well, looking at the profile of the company, it's obvious that you have to have the certain infrastructure enabling you to conduct your work. We have 50 employees, 45 full-time staff, 12 average work experience, 12 years in work experience. And in an average, companies shall have this experience, in my opinion, and we have enough technology to meet the necessary demands. The field works are so important in this process, and the certification of the staff should be done as well. We should provide certification to our employees too. In terms of certification in Turkey, you can't take the required certificate from the Turkish standard industry. And that's what's a challenging thing for us. because personally I was the one who made the very first application for the certificates for the employees, but the institution uh, gave an answer like, we don't believe that this sector is going to develop itself in Turkey, so we do not prefer to give a certificate, do not prefer to make any certification work about that. I hope they are going to change their opinion. Apart from this certification, we also had some awards from the industry, and we are, together with all these rewardings, we are trying to reach our target of 500 megawatts. The concentrated, well, we talk about the wind energy, but this concentrated solar power system also can be produced locally. In many processes, together with this new power system, we will be able to meet some costs coming due to natural gas or LPG and so on. Well, I told you about the average of the turbine in Alia. It is not at the desired level, so we don't have so many efficient results. As I said, we are manufacturer company, and we are quite powerful in terms of producing all the parts of the turbine. At the moment, well, I talked about two different turbines which have different wing length. One of them is 26, another is 28. And now we are planning to increase the length of the wings to have a better results. In the picture, you see the foundation of mounting of Sermetal and Alia. And more or less the process is the same. It can be done, problems can have solution in 85 days or so on. Well, in terms of mounting and installation, there is not a great difference actually, as long as the place, the field is specified and you have the enough finance.
50 ile 250 arasında pitch kontrollü bir sistem yapmıyor.
We are the only company who can do this peak control system. And thanks to our experiences coming from 30 years, we are quite able to make this. By the way, we use more or less the same suppliers. And here you can see the wing design process, the blade design process. First we design the blade, then make the CSR analysis and get feedback. But at that process we don't do any information sharing.
Gördüğünüz gibi bu arada çok önemli bir şey.
This slide is of great importance. We need these technical high schools. We are working integrated together with a technical high school, and there is a great lack of manpower with the technical know-how information. So we try to support that, so that to have employees who have the technical know-how. In this picture, you can see with whom we produced. TWEC is of great importance to us because if you don't have the sufficient blades, you can't make that turbine work efficiently. And in terms of these critical materials, we have great support of Berdan for the screws and so on. Uh, to be able to achieve even greater success and to reach a better level, there should be an investment of $1.2 million investment. Well, we are trying to do our best to make our voices heard globally, especially in Greece. We try to do our best. Thank you so much. That was all.
Cem Bey'e biz çok teşekkür ediyoruz.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cem Bey. It was a very exciting thing for us to listen to you. Actually, you mentioned the association. It is very important. It's a very important thing for us that you actually come together as the producers and to try to create awareness. And it's also important in terms of our local production. And I think the association is very important because we needed NGOs in that. We have actually our connecting tools, and this a very important company, Berdan Civata. I would like to invite the chairman of Berdan Civata, Hasan Şemsi, to the platform to deliver their presentations. Actually, this is our last half hour. I actually wanted to spend 30 minutes for questions and answers, but we won't have enough time for questions and answers because we will have some roles in the next sessions as well. Welcome. Hello, everybody. I would like to salute you all. I'm coming from Kars.
Yenilebilir enerji santralı, rüzgar
The first plant was found in where I come from. Is that plant produces 2,500 thousand plant and power in Tarsus. And when I saw that this is actually done in other countries too, I have been working in this a very long time. I was the chairman. I became the controller of the workshop my brother established. And I have been going on pretty well in the screw and nuts sector. We had 25 employees in our production facility, but today we have 220 employees with including 22 engineers. We are producing screws and nuts. We are actually producing the biggest and the highest quality screws in Turkey. In 2008, we had the first certificates, and we also went to Huzun Wind and Energy Fair. I was the only representative of Turkey in the fair, and I also realized that we were actually the flagship company. I wasn't expecting the turbine producers because we didn't have turbine producers in Turkey, but we had the tower producers and the blade producers because we actually have. Um, but we, as our area was, we are the smallest share. We had the 3%. It looks not as if it's not significant, but our products actually hold the tower together because the tower has to resist to the wind power, and it's a very big area. So it is a very important job to produce the screws and nuts for the wind power plants, and we are very successful in that. So Berdancıvata, this is our production facility. 33,000 square meter is our space. And we have 220 employees. We have been exporting nuts and screws all over the world. Taner Yıldız said that this is the biggest market of the world, actually. I don't see the wind as a market. It's not a mere market for me. I love the wind. And I would like to contribute to wind sector. I want to I want to decrease the deficit, current deficit, and increase employment as well. Berdan Group companies, Berdan has the different parts producing the screws and nuts, and has also surface processing part and laboratory. And we are aiming to be the leader in all of the parts. And we also have in Technopart, we have Berdan R&D company. The sectors we work, you see the wind turbines and steel construction, railways, terminal, storages and bridges. And bridges, what do we say? Of course, we're not building the bridges. We just supply their junction pieces, the connectors. And the second longest bridge of Europe, you see the junction piece for the bridge. 3 companies were authorized. Two of them were from Korea and Japan, and the third one is, I will say, from Europe, but it's Berdancıvata. It's our company among the only three authorized companies to produce this junction piece. We are still an SME, but we are about to get out of SMEs. In a contest, we became the most successful SMEs, and then we had in another contest within the Izmir Congress, we became the 5th growing SME. Our certificates, of course, everybody has ISO 9001. However, we had CE certificate which is very important for us. And then I saw in Germany there's only 3 companies among 300 companies in Germany working in screw and nut sector have that CE certificate. And when I found that out, I realized how important it was for us to have this CE certificate. Another certificate came from Turksamark about steel construction, and the Association of Steel Construction gave this to us. It is an authorization to supply for this construction area. Another certificates, the pressurized vessels. We are producing screws that can be used in cold climates, dealing with hot materials, and we have this certificate in Turkey. Another certificate we have, this is actually a certificate that only we have. We have the richest test laboratory in Turkey. It is really hard to work with abroad. We tackled this situation, but we had to establish a very rich laboratory, the test laboratory, and this is the first accredited laboratory in Turkey. Another thing, we have to cover the screws with galvanize against corrosion. And in the world, all the screws are cleaned with acid, and then they are covered with zinc. However, when it is being cleaned, when people are exposed to the vapor coming out of this cleaning process, the people can have lung problems, and then it also has bad impacts on the environment. And if it also can cause problems about screws and nuts, and it also caused a loss of 100,000 lira. So then I started to think, what can we do to eliminate this acid process? We are the only company who is not using this galvanized system, and I can say we are pretty proud of this. I said the richest laboratory. I lost a few clients in Germany. Why? You have to know some technical numbers for the screws. So is this oil, is it enough or not? You have to have very precise measurements. In order to know this, you can't manually use this grease and oil. And this most expensive device in our laboratory is this device, making this measurements so we don't lose our customers in Germany anymore. I said our laboratory is very rich. In Moscow, 8 or 10 years ago, a sports complex was collapsed. A few people died, and it was because of the cold weather. And if you are building something in Siberia, our testing device tells us if our screw will be durable up to 150 minus 150 degrees. This is a special thing about this device. Other devices might measure up to minus 40, but we are measuring up to minus 150. The equipment of the laboratory, I don't mention them. Now let's come to the wind. Wind power is actually our passion. All junction pieces are produced by us. We are a solution partner. We are making the screws connecting the blades to the screw, to the rotor, and you see the blades, and on the left corner you see our junction pieces. We are also making the tower connector pieces. This is cylindric towers. You might ask if there is a non-cylindric tower. Yes, this is, for example, not cylindric. It is really hard to carry the tower to the site, construction site. But if you make this in like 10 pieces, 10 vertical pieces, it is easier to carry. And a company in Netherlands does this, and they buy their connector pieces from us, and we are producing they call it tensile controlled balls. I might not be pronouncing it well because my English is not well, but you can see these are the connectors and junction pieces for the towers. You can see on the right bottom, you can see the connected version. This is one of our most produced products. On the left, you can see a cage. On the right, the plates of the cage. And on the right corner, it is connected with polyethylene pipes. So you might wonder, why should this be protected? The tower has to resist the wind, so it has a potential to lean towards the opposite of the wind. So the screws are actually in motion. They are getting longer or getting shorter. So when you think that you have this concrete around it, it is really hard for the screw to move. And so the anchorage cages are covered with polyethylene so that this movement can be enabled. All turbines have different numbers, and there are different types of screw, so we pack them separately for each blade. This is one of the certificates we have. This is local producer certificate. We need that to get support. This is what we have done so far. The total number of the power produced with the turbines whose connector elements we produced is actually more than 1,000 kilowatts. These are the companies for which we are the approved supplier. Maybe Aicha, you might not know Aicha, but the other ones you know. Aicha is a Japanese company. And here on the picture you can see Berdan River, and the first renewable wind power plant was made in Berdan. So it is the St. Paul's well and Cleopatra Gate. So these are the cultural assets, and that was a main route of 2000 years, and St. Paul's home was also very close to that main road. It means St. Paul was very rich. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope I didn't exceed my time. Thank you very much, Mr. Hassan, for your informative and good presentation that made us proud of you. Of course, the connectors and other pieces are very important in the wind sector. So when we were giving the support or contribution, it was underestimated. Like, are we going to support the screws too? They said, but then we said it's a very important part of the turbine. It is what it holds it together. So it's very important, and we wish you further success in your sector. And now I'd like to invite Habib Babacan from Northel Turkey. They also produce blades and towers. But we want to address the Turkish representatives working in international companies producing turbines. They actually have good contributions because the Turkish people working in the international companies have big role. We hope Turkey to become dominant in this sector.
Sizden son bir 10 dakikanızı
Hello, everyone. I would ask you just to give your attention for a more 10 minutes, and I would ask you not to take notes or not to be occupied with your mobile phones. After my short presentation, if you have any questions, I will try to answer them. Well, the wind energy is kind of our love, I can say. I will have a short introduction. I will talk about the blade production in Turkey. And at the end, I will touch upon some points which might have effects in the future.
Bey çok meşakkatli bir yoldan geçtiğinden bahsetti ki biz de gördük, hakikaten çok zor bir iş yani türbünü geliştirmek, üretmek.
Well, we've seen in the previous presentations how hard it is to produce the blades or the turbines. And as Nordex, we have to wait for the market in Turkey to develop itself. And I have been in the sector for a long time, actually, and since 2008, actually, I can see that there has been a quite significant market in this, and the blade production activity was initiated. In the presentation, I will talk about quite shortly about the blade production. Blades manufacturing. Nordex, together with the incentive law, started to make its blade production after 2011. What did Nordex do? Nordex made a design guarantee. And 117 blades, giving guarantee of the purchase of these blades. Nordex was able to create that potential. You can see some information about the blade company. You can see pictures from Izmir and other countries. The company is in Izmir, Chile, located in Izmir, Chile. This is a picture from the inside of the fabric. Here you can see the blade production process, the chart of the process on the screen. Everything is done in this factory. Here, some different pictures from the manufacturing process. About this company, the first N117 blades produced by TPI in Turkey was initiated in 2014 February. And now the locally produced N117 blades will be implemented in Çeşme as well. Goal is to produce 4 sets in a week in the first phase, and then it is going to increase to 8 sets in a week by 2014 fourth quarter. And about TPI, there are some informations here. Approximately, we have about 450 employees now. And you can find some information about the 2011 incentive law. 0.80 is the effect on the blades. You can see the chart here, maximum feed tariff here. And you see the total units, total capacity. And at the moment, with the red one, you can see the 55 and 117 blade sets from Turkey. Most of the wind farms will be built, but these wind turbines produced in Turkey. Third part of my presentation, there are important 2 points actually. The first ones are about short-term effects, and the second one are about long-term effects. As Mr. Sedat stated, naval investments in Turkey are important, and our researches, explorations are continuing, but there should be a great guarantee. Thinking about other actors in the sector, Turkey shall be able to produce projects of 1,000 megawatts. The regulatory process granted by the APDK, the Energy Market Regulatory Authority, actually it's not stable yet. If we can achieve a more stable situation, there would be a better and a greater local content, and Turkey would be more appealing market. And after that, these steps are taken, there should be appropriate finance, and companies, small or medium-scale companies, enterprises would need finance for the projects. At the moment, the purchasing guarantee at the moment is for 10 years in Turkey. But when you use locally produced tower or blade, this purchasing guarantee only is for 5 years. Well, I believe the incentive given to these locally produced nasals or the towers or the blades shall be increased to 10 years, because at the moment it would not be so sufficient. And this increase might affect the feasibility, the efficiency of the other projects. And the local content incentive, its time is only once per year. Well, you know, incentive is something which would encourage the investor, and I believe the incentive law shall be a bit more encouraging, because if let's say I'm in the sector, and if I can complete my project shortly, I would want to have this incentive in a short time. And there's another leakage. Let's say the application is accepted in November, and we already have our agreement with the investor and so on. Then the lack of time can create problems, because you would need to find the related parts, the crane and so on, and you have to complete the process in quite short time, which might create other problems related to occupational health and safety. Well, I believe implementations which can affect the projects in short term would be more fruitful. That was all I want to say. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope my presentation was quite informing for you. Thank you. We thank our speaker. I want to ask whether you have tower manufacturing or not. Yes, we have, but now I just wanted to touch upon the turbine production, manufacturing. Well, presentations were made, but I think just tower manufacturers are missing in this section. Maybe next year we will have them. Great development has been achieved in Turkey. You know, last year we had the same panel with the same topic, but last year there were not so many developments. Now, seeing the current situation makes me really happy. And passing to locally produced wind turbines is a great step in my opinion, and it will enable the industry to develop itself in a better way, and it will support the sub-industry as well. Publicly, we are really content of the current situation in the wind energy. But this feed-in tariff mechanism, 10 years, and local content incentive being 5 years is to be questioned. But no, encouraging the local production is actually the aim was actually to achieve this picture, actually, to be able to have such a sector, to have a sector which produces these parts of the turbine, to increase the know-how in Turkey, and so on. This was the aim of the Well, now we are ahead of our time, but I would like to have this Q&A session. You can have your coffee and come back here. Please introduce yourself and then ask your question. Hello. This I will not ask a question, but I want to make a contribution to this nice session. First of all, I would like to thank every panelist for their presentations. They were quite effective, influencing, and I can clearly see that there's a great development in this sector, and too much effort has been given. My recommendation is that in Turkey, the incentive for promoting local sourced energy production is important. But I think we can't see an important point, which is the technological manufacturing. To be able to produce something and to create an employment is okay, yes, important. But what I want to state is the awarding part of our engineers, the brilliant brains of our engineers. My name is Murat Veziroğlu. I am the nephew of a well-known professor who conducted studies for hydroelectric energy, and he gave great effort to make it established in Turkey, but he was not successful, unfortunately. But I believe we are at a point where energy sector can be improved greatly, and I believe that if we prolong the process, if the given period becomes a bit longer and increase the incentive, the results would be better. Well, talking about brands, and when you create a brand, that should be a global brand, not just a Turkish brand. You should reach the global level. But Arçelik is different, Sarar is different. You know, in this local production, local manufacturing, there is also some slight differences. But in Turkey, what is important is the fact of design, and in terms of design, you make use of your engineers' brilliant minds. We, personally speaking, we make the design all by ourselves. Turkish product, what does it mean? The design, the production, and brand. If it is yours, then this means the product is Turkish product. Well, Arçelik, for example, this is a Turkish brand. But if it has its parts produced in China, then it is made in China, even though the brand is a Turkish brand. But in my opinion, what we try to do is to have a literally Turkish product. Okay, you gave example of Renault in your presentation. You know, there were some initial attempts to produce local car in Turkey, but they were prohibited and limited in the past years. Unfortunately, we were not able to develop in that industry. But if we aim to continue like this in terms of local production, if we want to achieve better grades with this $11 incentive, the only thing that can be achieved would be to support not the local, the domestic brand, but other subsidies. But yes, you might be right. But let's say Nordex came to Turkey with a wind turbine designed by their own staff abroad. Okay, let's think that you are an entrepreneur. You take the license and then you produce the turbine with your own design, and then you become the Turkish brand. It becomes a Turkish product. Okay, we experience something important in terms of railways. We have rally taş
Olarak marka çıkarmayı hedefledik. Bu çalışma
and in all these works we've been conducting together with the public, we are aiming to have this local production, and in the following times you will see that the local incentives, the local content will be increased. In our studies, works in this railway, we have local brands for the tram train, and now these three brands are able to attend international tenders. And you will see in the following years that these brands will be able to get business internationally. Well, the fruitful results are achieved only now. But before that, there was a great past where we had to invest and put great effort. Same thing goes for the wind turbines. Uh, Once you invest once you put your effort, when you start to work on something, in a couple of years you will see the nice results of it. I want to thank Nordex for that.
İkinci sıradaki.
Teşekkür ederim.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all the participants for their contributions. Just like Sebahattin Bey just said, a few years ago, there was no something that we think it was local has become a national project. My name is Hakan Kuş. I'm coming from Cam Elmas Sanayi Anonim Company. Since 1976, we have been working in export area in composite blades. Actually, we are producing the one of the raw materials for the blades. However, the dilemma here, actually, because of the traffic, maybe I might have missed some of the things you have said, but for the first years, in order to provide this employment and these were very important. However, when we say local production, yes, I agree with what you said, but we need to change. Let me put it more clear. A Turkish blade that is covered with a foreign, with an imported component is also considered local, but the other components in the blade is prepared in Turkey, and their certificates were acquired in 2009, but the approval process of these things are unfortunately very hard. with the help and subsidies of the state and the government, the integrator companies or the blade producers have had to acquire their materials. They made their table trials and then they buy from me the fiber like Metix. They have just had their approval process. So for foreigners having a child in Turkey. So let's say two foreign people came to Turkey and they had their baby in Turkey, and as the baby was born in Turkey, it was considered as Turkish, like local. So when we consider the blade like this, the fact that it is made in Turkey, like Nortel or like TWEC or Ostim Group of Mr. Sedat, these are very important steps. The real local, real domestic production will start after this point, but just like Norton said, 5 years or maybe 10 years by using a local products, having a fast approval, and KPI actually has started this approvals process, and we hope others will do so too. This is what I wanted to say. As the company, we were always ready to do the contribution, and we are doing this. We are going to continue. And thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to give a suggestion for the next year. If you have this meeting next year too, the other producers producing alternative laser, the chassis and the blades, all the producers of the different parts, the central parts and the beds, and all the local industrialists need to come here. So we want the number of our national team players increase here in this meeting. Yes, we talked about it. It has been 2 years, I think, since we have been working with TWEC. When we look at the materials and when we look at the regulation as a whole, you have to ask your steel, where did you buy the steel from, to the one producing the tower. So because of this regulation, well, it was like this. And between 2010 and 2013, it has changed. The regulation changed, and this regulation is very lively regulation because it had to change every other 6 months, just as the sector is changing. Like you said, if like the baby born in Turkey and their parents are not from Turkey, we will call it local too, but we will have different points. For example, 0.8 if it is completely local, and if it is not, you can give it a different lower ranking. Actually, there is a lacking point about local production. The legislation is clear, but this 50%, 51% thing, for example, the blade producer, if he's buying the composite material from abroad, they ask, because of the law, they ask which materials are important, and they look if the glass fiber came from abroad, it is not a local production. So there's a different definition. You can buy this and you can have. It is actually, the law is very clear about this percentage. Okay, let's say last question. Please, very short. I have to catch another meeting. My name is Hussein Koch. I'm coming from Germany. What I want to say is, as far as I can see here, we are talking about how the world wind market is working. There's a misconception about it. They think there are two options for the local production of the blade. Big companies should come here. They establish their production companies. They will produce. And the second option is you have to do everything on your own. There are three. The third option, the Chinese use that actually. The third option is that is used in Europe. There are some companies giving only engineering services. They are not doing production. They come with you. They do the design with you. And they help you to develop like from scratch. They work in your design process too. So instead of buying, instead of producing this with 16,000, you could have bought this service and make it cost-effective way. Of course, we have to start from somewhere. There are different alternatives. We think this method is successful, but of course, the option you gave is also nice. And thank you very much for your participation. I have to catch the other meeting. Like I said, I would like to extend my gratitude to all the panelists and speakers, and of course, hopefully, next year we will have like the same team here, but with the contributions of other industry specialists. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.